Yeah, it's always interesting when you talk about gaming in Web3. And today we're very excited to have some of the top gaming people for a panel today for 25 minutes. And a bit on each of our panelists here today. John Smedley. John doesn't need much introduction in the gaming industry. Sony, Amazon executive, worked in the creation of EverQuest, PlanetSide, two of probably the most recognized games, I think, in the past 2 decades. So kudos to John. And he recently launched a Distinct Possibility Studios, newly launched game development studio in 2025. Blends essentially traditional gaming, blockchain gaming, FPS. Very exciting. Check out their site, check out their information. Long here to my right, he is the founder and CEO of Anomaly, an AI company with a focus on gaming. They launch many games for many different companies, and currently they're functioning as a studio. And Max is the founder of MomentumX Global. BD, GTM, that's what he does at Momentum. And prior to that, he worked on the GTM for many AI companies, including some at the intersection like Calica, which does data for AI in gaming. So to start off, I think we just have to recognize the state of the gaming landscape today in Web3. It's a market that went through a lot of iterations. It went through a lot of different changes. I'm sure my panelists here recognize this as well. In 21, there was a lot of NFT hype, NFT games, NFT-backed games, and some tokenized games in the form of NFTs. In 2022, we saw the emergence of guild-like games. That took over the market for a bit, but it didn't last. In 24, it was tap-to-earn games. Those came up in the market. To an extent, they dominated the market. You had Hamster Combat, Kitezen on Telegram, hundreds of millions of wallets airdropped, but the durability was still in question. Very excited to have as well our panelists here introduce themselves. Max, maybe we can start off with Momentum, and we can go from there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abdul. And just want to give a shout out and thank you so much to the Decasonic team with Paul, Teresa, and Abdul for putting on the show, as well as everyone else that's part of the team here. So first and foremost, I'm Max Kaufman, so founder of MomentumX Global. I've been in data my whole career. I started in enterprise with Oracle, selling database and cloud infrastructure to banks and hospitals, moved into e-commerce more in the mid-market side, working with some of the top Shopify stores in the world. And then the last 5 years I've been in the crypto Web3 space, mix of RPC nodes, node infrastructure, and data analytics, mostly in the gaming sector for it. So got in 2020 with Axie Infinity, DeFi Kingdoms, Krabata. There were some of the games, quote unquote, back then, more DeFi on steroids for gamification. And then got really deep into the industry and have really been working and building with a lot of top teams. The last company I was had a go-to-market at, Helica. We worked with some of the biggest studios in the world that were building in Web3, like Ubisoft and Nexon, which just launched MapleStory Universe recently out in South Korea. And we also worked with really strong Web3 native teams like Proof of Play, which built Pirate Nation, Parallel, and Wildcard, to name a few. With MomentumX now, we work as a consultant and advisor to a couple of very strong teams in the intersection of gaming AI. One of them is up here with Long and Anomaly. Another one's a company called Beamable, which provides live service backend for gaming companies like Mythical Games, FIFA Rivals. We also do a lot of events globally. So thanks again for having me up here.
Thanks, Abdul. So I'm John Smedley. I'm the CEO of Distinct Possibility Studios. I'm one of the founders. One of my fellow co-founders, Tammy McDonald's over there. We are making, with the investment from many investors, including and especially Decasonic, we are making a game that is at the intersection of traditional Web2 gaming. It's a shooter. Called Reaper Actual. You can see it at reaperactual.com. Got a nice trailer up there. We just announced it. And we've built a blockchain ecosystem that sits alongside the game that we intend to grow with user-generated content and allowing players to not only help us build the game through making content for it, but also to make their own games and monetize those for themselves. We believe in the future of this intersection where Web 2 and Web 3 players are playing the same game, but an ecosystem that exists outside is something that we see being able to grow and actually span across many games long term.
And finally, Long.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Abdul. So I'm Long. I've been a Web3 founder for a number of years. Prior to that, a solo technical entrepreneur, worked at companies like SAS with backed by Kevin O'Leary, worked with medical AR scanning technology. But then in 2021, I followed my dream of building video games. I used to love playing games like StarCraft, played it professionally. I just started my first game and all of a sudden got acquired. And all of a sudden I got my second acquisition. And now I decided to start my own studio and it's backed by Decasonic.
All of us here on the panel love games. We have a passion for gaming. We've played many different variety of genres. And some of the people here, just like you've heard, went on to become founders of their own studios, making some of the most recognizable games and or advising some of the top gaming projects in the ecosystem. But one thing we do have to recognize as we take a look at the current landscape of games in Web3, and rather GameFi in Web3, is durability. Durability is still a question for many of these games, and I think that leads us to just an introduction on the state of the gaming market and really how Long, John, and Max, you guys view the gaming market as it stands right now in Web3.
Web3 gaming, in my opinion, to date, has been a lot of focus on the on-chain games and a lot of experimentation, but not a lot of mass numbers. Axie Infinity being a big exception. But you're starting to see mainstream games, AAA games, make their way in. A recent launch of Off the Grid. Actually, it was launched I think last October, but it launched recently on Steam. You're starting to see that the impenetrable wall that had been there from traditional. I hate calling them Web2 gamers because they just think of themselves, and so do I, as just gamers. You're starting to see these games come out that people are like, oh, okay, well, that's not horrible. Because there was a lot of Web3 games are just simply, a lot of them were scammy. A lot of them felt very much like, there's a term I absolutely hate more than anything. It's called play to earn. What a stupid moniker. It's horrible. And when that's the kind of stuff that goes directly against kind of the gamer ethos, when they hear that, it turns them off immediately. Well, there's a lot of different ways to achieve similar things without putting the emphasis on people are playing this game to earn money, right? And you're never going to get mainstream gamer adoption until you can cross the divide between what gamers think Web3 games are and what they actually can be if they're done really well and they're adapted just like normal games are, but just for an economy that has a lot longer legs.
I was just thinking, back when I started in my first game series with Zedrun, it was all about NFTs and the hype of selling and minting out these horses that you could race them and then you trade those NFTs. And then what happened was we at Zedrun made a lot of money. We got backed by A16Z and we grew from 40 to 200 people and we hired all these Web2 gaming folks. And that turned out to be a horrible decision at the time. But now I'm kind of coming back to that. I'm well, maybe there is a lot more to learn about Web2 gamer audience now. I think that's kind of where the narrative is shifting back into, trying to understand what's the consumer behavior of these gamers, and how do we achieve higher retention? How do we get these guys coming back to buy more of these accessories because of the in-game utility? So I think we're moving back into that phase, which I'm a bit more excited for.
Yeah, I was going to say we're kind of past the whole speculation phase of Web3 gaming, or at least getting past that point. I think the big problem that happened after Axie Infinity is that everybody had these very unrealistic expectations that I was going to buy an NFT, stake that NFT, play the game, earn X amount of rewards. This game's going to launch a token. All of a sudden, I'm going to become a millionaire. Because that's essentially what happened during that 6-month time frame that the Axie token went from $2 to $162 in trading price. Which was pretty remarkable, and you had people in Southeast Asia making generational wealth just from playing literally a video game that is not really a fun video game. It was just more so to make money. And so that was where all the VC capital went into the last 22, 23, 24 was investing in the teams that are just saying, hey, we're going to launch a token and launch NFTs and you're going to cash out and then boom, on to the next one. So we finally are at a stage where, the teams like John and Long and the other legitimate game builders of the world have gotten the proper funding, have gotten the proper time, have been spending a lot of time building actually quality games. And we're going to start seeing them actually getting shipped to market to, get real gamers in the door.
One thing that all of you touched on as well is, to an extent, the distinction in the market between Web 2 and Web 3 gamers. Either in your current roles in creating some of these games, coming from your gaming studios, or advising some of these games, do you see that the distinction is still being made as you create some of these as well? Do you imagine, for example, Long, one of your games from Anomaly being designed for Web 2, Web 3, or is it still a hybrid? Is there an approach in the middle? How do you think of that approach as well, as it concerns GTM primarily for some of these games?
Yeah, I definitely try to target both still. There's certain things like, exchanges unfortunately still want stuff like vanity metrics, trying to get user counts, getting wallets created, all the assets under management, how much is the LTV worth of every one of my users, in terms of how much they spent in these games. So there's a lot of these type of questions, and I only get through using both target markets in order to answer that question. I really, really do want to focus more on things like, what is my LTV of my user in my game? That's what you should care about, not just how much crypto they've spent before. So that's kind of where I think things are heading.
Yeah, so in terms of, targeting Web 2 versus Web 3, it used to not really even be an option just because the infrastructure wasn't in place for people to be able to launch a game with crypto element or blockchain elements and you not having to just connect a MetaMask wallet. And now you have a bunch of these infrastructure providers that have gotten a lot of funding over the years, like Third Web, Sequence, Privy, et cetera. So anybody can really sign in and, as a first-time user experience, easily jump into a game, start playing it, earn a bunch of assets within the game like you do in any other game, and they could actually be minted on chain on the back end. And if you really wanted to, you could figure out, okay, how do I actually trade these on chain or sell these for another token, X, Y, Z. So it was kind of like you're forced as a game maker to either say, okay, are we going to track Web 2 and launch it a traditional way, or are we going to add connect a wallet? Now that's changed, and you can really design a game and ship and launch a game like what Gonzilla Games has done with Off the Grid, or a lot of these other games that are coming out now where you can sign in with your Gmail account or your Facebook or your X, get into the game, just play, have fun, and then if you want to really trade on chain, there is that element to it. So you have an option to target both. You could still do one or the other, but we're starting to see a lot more teams prove that model out.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because I've just gotten schooled in the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 gamers in sort of the most amazing way. That difference is bots. So when we announced our game, we put up a waiting list. Within minutes of putting that waiting list up, we quickly realized, okay, it's time to turn on the bot filters. It was an immediate thing. What we are focusing on is the traditional gamers and convincing them to play in a Web3 environment where the things that they achieve in the game that they can turn around and sell, but that they're not game-changing things or game-altering. It's still a skill-based shooter. For us, there's a lot bigger numbers of trying to convince or a lot bigger potential numbers trying to convince people that are, the millions and millions of mainstream gamers to give this a try versus the relatively small number of current generation, what I would call Web3 gamers. And the difference in the bots versus, people that were just signing up because they were excited, it was remarkable. It was organized, and it was easy to stop. But it was also like, okay, now we are seeing more clearly what that divide is. So we're just focused on making sure that the things that attract the players to our game are also the things that make creators want to take take our game and make things for it and make money the old-fashioned way instead of waiting for damn airdrops and farming and sort of this current wave of like, hey, where's my free shit? Which is sort of what I see out there in this, Web3 gaming landscape that looks a lot more like an apocalyptic landscape to me than it does, a rich ground to recruit gamers from. I think it's going to be much easier to convert traditional gamers into being able to do things they can't do in Web 2.
And to John's point, at the end of the day, when he says apocalyptic, there's a lot of shutdown in gaming studios in Web3. But right now, we're taking a look at the market in terms of opportunities that are available. Opportunities available at the intersection of AI and Web3, and really potentially the next evolution of bots. At the end of the day, bots might not only be able to do waitlists, they could be NPCs that make up your personalized agents within the games that each of you offer, within the games that you advise as well. And that really brings me to my next point of topic, which is next stage of gaming in Web3, next stage of gaming being intersection of gaming and AI in a Web3 context, in a Web3 market. When you take a look at some of the opportunities that are available, whether it's opportunities and features that you are personally developing in-house, advising, or seeing some that are rising within the general market, what are some of the opportunities that you see?
I mean, one of the things that I'm seeing with some of the companies that I'm advising for, as well as that are actually building and shipping the games, is the personalization you can get from integrating AI within NPCs in games or player or game behavior based on, hey, this is how I would normally, play the game or interact with somebody within a game, and it picks up on that and it starts understanding like, the techniques that you're using or, the type of persona that you have within the game and engages back in a very personalized way, which ultimately games that end up driving the highest player LTV, so the games that make the most money from players, wanting to consistently come back and spend more money in the game, it's a very personal reason why somebody's doing that. It's an emotional attachment, an emotional feel. So that's like an ability that I've seen like AI been able to improve the game process for the players on the other side of the equation. And then if you look at another big value proposition of Web3 that a lot of people don't think about, but on the studio side you have to think about or you understand clearly, is the data that you get. In Web3, if you're able to get data from, or you're able to get a wallet address or, a player's wallets from multiple different ecosystems and see what assets do they own, how much money do they technically have across different chains. When you're going to offer them actual like different personalized rewards or offers, et cetera, it can be very much aligned to how much money do they actually have in their bank account from like a wallet perspective, or what other types of assets they own. Okay, they probably would like this type of skin versus this type of skin just by reading the NFTs that they own in their wallet, or the amount of crypto assets they have financially.
So this one's kind of a loaded question for us because we really, really do embrace AI at Anomaly. My first game I created here, I kind of vibe coded with like ChatGPT beta. I learned a new programming language. I wrote it in Lua. I tried to compile it, and basically it's an LLM. You roll the dice, and then LLM rolls the dice against you. My first day debuting this game on a Telegram interface, I had about 2 million ChatGPT calls. And at that time, ChatGPT was so freaking expensive, and I realized this was not a sustainable game. So since then, we still kind of take a lot of those ideas and building like AI opponents in some of these games. We also do things like right now we're 9 employees and 3 AI agents taking a reference to you guys. We do things from like game ops. There's an AI agent that tells us like how many users there are, what's the current daily retention if we just ask it a question, and then like, what's the daily quest for this game? And I can actually change it by talking to the AI agent. So that's another component. And the last component is speed of market, speed of developing, getting it to market. We ship nearly, this quarter we're shipping about 1 game per month. And on average about 200K MAU per each one of these games. And the way we do it is because we've created so many games in the past, we use that as a blueprint, and then we ask the AI to vibe code the first edition of the product with some of these components. So we're just make all the measures to really be an AI augmented studio.
Yeah, it does seem like a recurring theme is ship more personalized, sticky games faster. And that's really one of the key features that AI enables. John, if you have anything else to add on this, we would love to learn more. Otherwise, we can move on. Given the time that we have, and given just how rapid the market itself is evolving in a GameFi context, I think we can wrap it up with this. What excites you most about the landscape right now? When you take a look at the opportunities in gaming, opportunities primarily at the intersection of Web3, gaming, and AI, what's either an upcoming feature, an upcoming integration, an upcoming game, could be your own that you really want to discuss, talk about, and potentially highlight?
So really excited about what the ecosystem that is possible to build with Web3 that isn't possible without it. And from our perspective, the transparency that comes from data is an amazing thing. And it's going to let cottage industries and hopefully full-blown ones be built up around games. You know, websites that specialize in selling a particular type of an asset. We like that. We also see, though, that we're building our game to be moddable, and we're going to let users take our game, modify it, and then literally charge for it in their own service if that's what they want to do. Of course, we're always getting our piece, but at the same time, that sort of ecosystem that includes the transparency level simply isn't something you can just get off the shelf anywhere else in gaming. We see that as a huge, blue ocean kind of an opportunity that we want to see our users make cooler things than we can. If you look at the history of gaming, the last two really large genres are battle royale games, and then before those, MOBA games. And both of those came from user mods. We see that Web3 can power that like nothing else can, and taking advantage of that by being in there early and focusing on the building blocks for the ecosystem, doing our, the blocking and tackling work so that users can build on what we've got and dream bigger than we can is a big deal for us. At least that's how we see the world.
For me, like personalization is a pretty fun one. I'm going to take one of our games called Get Plucked. It's a game that's a parody of Brian Armstrong and how bald he is. So what you do is you go around the game, you pluck hairs from the ground, and you cleanse the earth of sin from hair. And so once you pluck one of these hairs, you get to mint it as an NFT. You get to ask, what is this hair of? You could say it's a hair of a flamingo, and then AI assets gets generated on-chain, gives you a flamingo hair. I know flamingos don't have hair, but you could just make it up. And then it gets minted on-chain, and it's a really fun customization. There's assets being generated in the game with AI, and you get to personalize it. There's just so many avenues you can go down with this, with all these new technologies. So that's what excites me the most.
Max?
Yeah, on my side, we've already seen it proven to this day. It's user-generated content. It's massive in the Fortnite, Epic Games, UEFN ecosystem. So that empowers and enables like the creator economy to, build something and kind of sell it on an open marketplace or share it with others to play in that map that they create, and they actually get paid off of that. And so there's an app that a team that I know really well in the Web3 space called Remix. They used to be called Farcade, and they just were in like the big base announcement, and they've utilizing AI tooling allow anybody to generate and create their own games. It's like a ChatGPT interface, and you can just like, I want to create a snake game that has XYZ features and does all this like really cool things, and you can personalize as much as you want and just keep building, and you have to know zero about game development. And they've created like their own marketplace for that, and they're going to start monetizing and sharing the rewards and the money that they get from all these games back to the creators who actually launched the game, and put it on the marketplace. So leveraging AI tooling, leveraging Web3 with the crypto payment element to it is really exciting for an opportunity like them to grow and expand their user base, not just with one game, but thousands of games that could be made by pretty much anybody.
Max, John, Long, thank you so much for joining us. To our audience, thank you for your time as well.
Thank you.